Hey, this is Adam with Churchfront. We're doing another tech tour or tech makeover at Wilderness Community Church. This is the after. We'll show you a little bit before, but we are here in the tech booth and I want to show you what we accomplished over the last couple days. The first thing that we did, if you know me, you're not going to be surprised. We worked on gain structure. So those speakers over there, there used to be a lot more speakers in a different configuration. So we took away half the speakers and we made it sound much better. All of the audio was coming off of this PreSonus 32. So we kept this board, but there was a DBX unit here that was doing some who knows what processing. So all we did was remove the processor and do the graphic EQ off of the main for the StudioLive, and we were able to get a pretty good sound out of the existing speakers. While I was here, I did take measurements so that in the future, should we decide to do a design where there are some hanging line arrays or something else, we have the measurements for that. One of the first things that I had to do was make sure that this console was connected to the same main network as the rest of the computers, so that first of all I could use my laptop to tune the room from the middle of the room, but also so that we can put it on this computer to control it and I can remotely help them out. So we'll hop on Zoom calls and I can actually take a look at the mixing console and make adjustments to it. Back to gain structure, those speakers there are connected to some amplifiers backstage, which were set to 100%. And now they're at maybe 10%. It is plenty loud for the room and we've lowered the noise floor considerably. After we got all of the inputs on stage and made sure that those were working properly, we recorded a rehearsal and we used Capture for that. If you have a PreSonus console, I'm a huge fan of this software because of how tightly it integrates with the console. So you just open the software up, hit record new session, and it's going to pull in the colors and the names of all the channels, and then you can easily hit this button that says D right here for digital inputs, and it'll actually control the console to flip the inputs to the digital inputs rather than the analog inputs. So we were able to record a rehearsal, and after that rehearsal the next day I was able to use these tracks to continue to make adjustments on the console, including giving a new user layout so that everything is on the surface that needs to be. But also we were able to make a live stream matrix. So we're using the subgroups, and on the subgroups we've got drums, instruments, and vocals, and then anything else like a pastor or host microphone is going straight to the matrix. That's another nice thing about this console, is that you can put channels straight into a matrix. Not every console has that specific capability. One other thing we did was made sure that each one of these cables is labeled properly. So there are two snakes on stage, analog snakes, stage left and stage right. So we made sure to label each one of these if it was coming from stage left or stage right, because there were times when someone said, I'm plugging into 11. Well, there were two 11s, so now there is not. But all of this is going to go away. This church plans to replace those analog snakes with some digital stage boxes on stage. As of now, there are these two computers here. One of them is running PowerPoint and one of them is running Wirecast, and we're going to consolidate down to one computer running ProPresenter that can do both in-person and online streaming. The church already has an expansion chassis with a Decklink Duo in it, so we'll be able to utilize that and then run SDI cables rather than the Kramer HDMI over Cat5, which has been giving them some issues. There was already a pair of Rode M5s in the back room, so I plugged these in and set them up to be congregation capture mics so that the in-ears can capture the congregation singing. It also can be used for the live stream matrix mix. Here's a choir mic. It was feeding into this wedge, so that's just one small thing that I did, was remove this microphone from that wedge so that there is not a feedback loop. Additionally, the choir loft is here and the drum kit used to be right here in the center, so we moved that to the right side or stage left here, so there'll be less drum bleed into the choir mics. And of course, there's a shield that will be put back, and we'll put a lid on top of it. Right now there are a lot of amplifiers on stage as well as stage wedges. The plan is to move to more DI boxes and in-ear monitors instead of these wedges here. The music director or worship leader is already using one of these HP2 headphone devices from PreSonus, so we're going to get the same units for the rest of the band that's going to be switching to in-ear monitors. Currently there's just a kick mic and a single overhead microphone. We're going to be utilizing the rest of the microphones that are in the stage closet to capture the snare top and bottom, the rack toms and the floor toms separately for the mix, especially because there's going to be the cage with the lid on top of it, so this will be much more isolated and can actually mix those microphones into the main mix and the live stream mix better. So there are some devices like this that are currently being used that are going to be removed, but there's also a lot of gear in the closet back there, so I'm going to be connecting them with church gear so that they can sell some of this equipment and use that to buy things like a new digital stage box so that they don't have to use the analog snakes that don't have fully functional channels. So some of these channels aren't working, so it's time to move to a digital snake. I've had a great time working with Brian and his team the last few days. We got a lot done and we still have a lot of work left to do. If you're interested in doing something like Brian did and signing up for worship ministry school so you can get an accelerated start on making vast improvements in your worship ministry and your technical infrastructure, go to the description and check out worshipministryschool.com/apply. I would love to work with you. Either me or someone from the Churchfront team would love to visit you and help you make improvements within your worship ministry as well. Let us know in the comments what you appreciated about this tech tour, what are things that you would recommend for Brian and his team, or what it is that you're working on or trying to get past, or whatever you're struggling with. So we would love to hear from you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.